Welcome back, everybody, to the first DreamHack in North America. It is the DreamHack Austin in Texas tournament, and we're ready to continue with the next match here in the StarCraft 2 tournament. It's a beautiful city here. We've been having a lot of fun so far in Austin. You know, played a match before. I see RuFF right now on the ball, but it's all about this game coming up, and we're going to be talking about it in a couple of moments. Of course, I'm your host for the next couple of days, and a big shout out to our sponsors, Zowie, Razer, G2A, Monster Energy, and of course, Alienware. Hello, Kevin van der Kooi. Welcome to the desk.
Hello, Shawnee. It's great being here. So fun, man. Everybody's so nice. I've been talking for hours already. I haven't been on the desk yet, but I feel I've been talking all day. I'm like almost exhausted. There's so many nice people there. Everybody has a story. Really cool.
Yeah, it's great to see, you know, a lot of local players coming to sign up to the tournament, first of all, coming to watch the tournament.
But also non-local players. Like, I think this is the first time in years that you've got your Master League players from Florida, from California, from Colorado. They're coming all over the place, all here. Everybody has a story. Everybody's got dreams. Obviously, most of them are getting crushed today, but it's all good, you know. It's fun.
The nature of eSports. Wouldn't be any fun without that, right?
Exactly. So, lots of fun.
And we will be jumping into this next game very shortly. It's just around the corner. It is going to be Kelazhur versus RuFF in the winner match now that will get a spot into the bracket already, which is where things obviously start to heat up when that's drawn a little bit later on. But it's Terran versus Terran, so we've brought Nathanius over to the caster side with Total Biscuit. So we've got a clear definition now, Roddy. We've got, you know, clear, good hype, play-by-play by Total Biscuit, and hopefully some Terran knowledge by Nathanius.
You know, I'll try, because I only play, I only play on the NA ladder, really, living in California.
I mean, that doesn't really count, does it, really?
Yeah, exactly, right? So you'd think that it wouldn't be as useful, but the trick is here. I play both these guys since they are both American players, and I can tell you I am terrified of playing both. A, because Kelazhur is a god, and B, because RuFF, you just don't know what he's ever going to do. Every game against him is like a new nightmare.
All right, well, I know you guys are going to have a lot to talk about this game in a couple of seconds here, but Roddy, I know you've joined us on the desk, so we want to hear your thoughts about this matchup before we get to predictions and then jump in game.
I'm definitely there with Nate. I mean, Kelazhur is the better player when it comes to RuFF and Kelazhur, but RuFF is very unpredictable, and that's not just like a general statement like, oh, he's unpredictable. No, he's very, very unpredictable. He's at the upper echelon of crazy. He does builds that are absolutely not supposed to work, but somehow he does make them work. I think he's a scary opponent to go up to. Even if you're as good as Kelazhur, it is scary. But if I'm a betting man, which I'm not at all actually, but if I would be, but if I would be, then I would still put my money on Kelazhur, because Kelazhur is one of the absolute best Terrans in North America, and then I include Polt in that ranking as well. Like, he's up there, man. He's super solid.
And I'm sure you two gentlemen do probably agree with Roddy here that Kelazhur is a clear favorite.
I mean, I think there's no doubt about that. Kelazhur burst onto the scene quite some time ago, and I feel like there's a new North American, or in the, his case, South American hope every once in a while that pops up and starts to challenge the Koreans. And to be fair, Kelazhur has had some solid results against them as well. But we say the same thing almost every time when we talk about these guys. We don't necessarily have a win on the board at a big tournament. Will this be the time? We're about to find out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome here to Dusk Towers. And in the red trunks to the south position from Team Storm Gaming, it is RuFF.
The madman himself.
He's a maniac. Maniac, that's for sure, and he's going to dance like he's never danced before. Let's see what his opponent can bring to the table. In the north position here on Dusk Towers, in the blue trunks are playing Terran. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you RuFF Kelazhur.
So awesome to be here. So many awesome StarCraft fans, as Roddy was saying. I got to meet so many people getting ready for this, and already some interesting choices being made by our players here. RuFF opening up with a quick gas, likely going into that pretty quick factory to follow this up. Kelazhur, though, opening with 2 barracks. So already feels like, with his gas, a little bit of 2-rack sweeper action. What this is going to give him is, if he were being proxied in some way, 2 Reapers at a time is enough to deal with it. If you're getting proxy 3-racks Marine, RuFF could do that. This is going to hold you up. If you're getting proxy Reapered, this is the best opening to be able to expand and not be committed to one base, but also not die to cheese.
Yeah, you'd think, on first glance to some people, especially the people who maybe aren't as well versed in StarCraft You might think, oh, well, he's building 2 barracks, so he wants to be aggressive, right? Not necessarily. It's a situation where if you think that some shenanigans might be going on, you can also play this in a very defensive way. But the Reapers, they're so fast, they give you that flexibility to go and attack and harass, but also defend if your opponent decides to send a single Reaper, and then you get a nice trade out of it. You know, you get their Reaper, but you don't have to sacrifice one of your own to do it. So it's a pretty nice build, and we're going to see 3 Reapers coming out here versus what looks like it's going to be a reacted factory from RuFF.
Yeah, this is such an interesting thing that's happening here because if he has these, yeah, okay, we have really fast Hellion. This is super important. So this is a build. If you were doing this on an older map like Orbital Shipyard, the Reapers can get to your base so fast, they can kill you very quickly for doing a greedy opening like this. With only 2 Marines and that Hellion slowly coming out, Reapers can beat Hellions 1v1 in very low numbers, but also the grenades make them really good against Marines. So this gives Kelazhur that option to put more pressure on, but he's not going to super commit to it. And I think that's a safe choice because as aggressive as 2-Rack Sweeper can be, there really is no build that's too aggressive versus RuFF because he'll do anything. It's so hard to predict.
Absolutely. There's the swap onto the reactors we mentioned earlier, and regardless of the fact that the Reapers can't regenerate, you still kind of, you want to time. I feel like you're on like a ticking clock when you're using Reapers, because yes, they can regenerate and come back, but their usefulness becomes a little bit more limited. Nice little move there, but a Reaper did get killed in the process. Now he's just going to commit and just get as much value out of this as possible, and he will clean things up and get out with 1 Reaper. But at this point, it's like there's no real point in building any more Reapers. You've got what you can out of them. Their usefulness has a very limited window that's now expired. So we're going to see what the next stage of the game is. And RuFF defended just fine against that. He didn't lose too much. He didn't give away that scouting information for that starport with the tech lab on it. It's a double starport build. Why am I surprised? I'm not surprised. It's RuFF. He's got all sorts of things up his sleeve. God, I have not seen double tech lab starport in a very long time.
Yeah, this is a classic signature RuFF build. I mean, think about the Reapers. They also saw that barracks floating out, and your first instinct as a Terran is you see that, you're like, oh, okay, I guess this guy's going to play mech, and you're thinking maybe siege tanks, maybe a lot of Hellions. Hellions for sure with the reacted factory, but you may not be thinking double starport, especially double starport into Raven.
Yeah, this is an interesting double starport build because the old school Wings of Liberty double starport build was double Banshee, which without cloak, which is generally very aggressive. But what we're seeing here is Raven plus Viking and the Corvid reactor upgrade for the Ravens. This is highly unusual. This is, well, let's just say very RuFF-like, I think.
Yeah, Ravens are a very interesting unit in Legacy of the Void. The auto turret duration got dropped a lot, but they do a lot more damage. So as weird as it sounds, you think maybe mech is like more of a turtley sort of thing. This play, because of how short range those turrets are, you don't want to actually fight with armies. You want to do a lot of jabbing, a lot of picking units off with those. So I expect to see him be a little more out of the map. And this map in particular, Dust Towers, is so big. You have such an easily holdable third that this is one of those very few maps where you do see those mech strategies. And Raven auto turrets will be perfect for shutting down drops if you can get him in locked into that position, and of course the Viking will help too.
I mean, I can't wait to see how this plays out. This is why I love watching RuFF play, because something weird is going to come out whenever he pops up in a tournament, and he's going really hard on these Ravens here, whereas we're seeing a more classic Marine tank medevac build coming out of Kelazhur, which is what you would usually expect in a TvT. Especially, I think if you feel like you're the better player, you go for this build a lot because you feel more confident in your positioning and your decision-making. You think your opponent's going to make a rash mistake. But this, I'm not sure how this is going to work out, considering that there's so many Ravens out already. Corvid Reactor just kicks in right before those 2 Ravens finish, which is ideal timing for the energy there. Now we see the push from Kelazhur, and it's going to be a 2-pronged attack with the drop in the back.
I like this. I like that he's not dropping straight into the base. It's going to give him a little bit of flexibility to pick up and drop away since he can dodge the Viking. If he had committed that drop in, then the Viking may have enough time to snipe those forces. And of course, we do have the Raven upgrade that increases the damage of Seeker missiles and auto turrets. So it raises it up from 16 damage per shot to 21 on the auto turret, and it turns the Seeker missile into like 130 damage, so it makes it a lot better because that'll one-shot Vikings.
It is a beast, there's no doubt. We're seeing quite a few defenses come down against potential drops. We saw that he pulled back with that drop, but now he's going for a 3 medevac drop. This time on the eastern side here, where there are no missile defenses, but with that amount of Ravens, this seems a little bit dicey. Let's see how much damage can be done here as Kelazhur goes in. He's going for the mineral line now. We've got a bunch of Hellions moving in, and here come the auto turret drops. 1 siege tank focused down immediately, trying to bring down the second one as well. That's going to be lost. There's a lot of economic damage being done here, but it was quite a large investment here from Kelazhur as well. The cleanup without a devastating amount of damage being done? What do you reckon? Like, who got the better end of that trade?
I mean, let's take stock of the strategies, right? This is a very gas-heavy build from RuFF. Losing a couple of SCVs, he's only down 4. The mineral income isn't that big of a deal, right?
No,
He's limited in terms of production by gas, which, you know, you can only mine so much from a refinery. There's no real oversaturation benefit. So I don't think it slows him down too much. Definitely hurt that the Hellions were attacking the tanks, because of course those Marines are the really tough parts to deal with. You can drop auto turrets next to them from above freely with those Ravens. But I'm curious to see how Kelazhur is going to react to this, because RuFF is already floating out to his third base. He's playing this slower style. He's going to secure that economy faster. Now Kelazhur sees it, so I think he's realizing, I didn't kill him with my first attack. Unless I do something right now, this is going to be a long game.
It will, and RuFF has been known to go seriously turtle mech, and we see 2 more factories being added on. Still a lot of Ravens. You know, this is a style that tends to drag games out. It can be very effective. The nice thing about having Ravens early is, if you think about energy as a renewable resource, which is, but hold that thought, we've got a big engagement. Auto turrets around the back doing significant damage there. Wow, I mean, you do not expect them to do that much damage, but with the explosive shrapnel shell upgrade, suddenly Kelazhur is on the run in an unexpected situation. That drop's not going to do an awful lot. The Hellions not getting the best angle, but they're getting the better end of the trade, because there's another wave of auto turrets backing this army up.
It's very important to keep in mind those auto turrets only last 7 seconds.
Yeah,
so you
big
are not playing the Heart of the Swarm style where you are locking down bases and sieging your opponent. If you're gonna use Ravens, you need to use them very effectively, because if he drops all those turrets, you know, once those are done, these Hellions aren't going to break the main base of Kelazhur.
No, and I have to wonder if he used a little bit too much energy there. He's got a few more auto turrets to play with, and with those upgrades, they will be able to shred through those Marines, even with the medevacs. But with only a couple of turrets, it's not enough to break the lines yet. And now you look at RuFF's army and you say, well, you don't have any siege tanks here yet, so you can't break this base. And we've got a sally forth here from Kelazhur to try and get this out of the way. He realizes those Ravens are mostly out of energy, and he's able to trash the ground army. Great little hop pick up at the back there to save that tank. Really nice micro by Kelazhur.
Yeah, and you mentioned this, of course. The thing is, these Ravens can go into the fight, and he didn't really lose that many of them. He's actually traded very well with his Ravens, just putting out energy for units at this point.
Yeah,
the Hellions are expensive. The Marines chasing this down. Very nice to get to those Ravens. It means 200 gas. Takes about 43 seconds for them to build. So
wow, that auto turret kills 3 Marines in about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
That upgrade is very, I mean, they used to tickle. Now they punch through Marines very effectively. And unfortunately, lose the Raven on the way out, but as we mentioned, energy very much a renewable resource, and the earlier you get it, the more value you get out of it, as long as your Raven stays alive. Sensor tower's going down now here for RuFF. He's in it for the long haul.
This is such a cool thing, because we talked about this. Even though Kelazhur is a much more highly rated, much more highly accomplished player, now he has taken a few blows in the start of this game that allow RuFF to play his game. Like, we're no longer watching a normal TvT. This doesn't happen, but RuFF has been able to comfortably reach that stage where Kelazhur's not going to do any flashy micro and just kill him. Kelazhur has to play a drawn-out game. He has to bait out auto turrets, look for openings, but with those sensor towers you mentioned and the Vikings he's building and now tanks, that's not going to be easy.
Yeah, and we're going to be seeing, of course, the tank drop, which is now in Legacy of the Void, which is going to make mobility a big factor. Usually this is a very slow style that crawls across the map. It's basically leapfrogging. One tank moves forward, the other tank stays to defend it. And you will notice, of course, on the third base of RuFF that there is a planetary fortress, which is going to make infantry drops a lot harder to do. This is a well-fortified base with a sensor tower. It's going to be hard to break, and RuFF has its own tank contingent now as well. So this is now about decision-making. It's about positioning. It's about timing, and which is the better player. And I mean, in this situation, despite the fact that Kelazhur did take those blows, he does have a larger army. His work supply is about even, and you got to kind of give it to Kelazhur as the player with more experience in this sort of scenario, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, how much experience does he have playing against a guy that masses Ravens, right? That's what gives RuFF this super weird place where he's played a lot more games with this style against Marine tank medevac than Kelazhur has played against this, because the only way you're going to practice against this is if you play against RuFF. There's no one else that does this, not that I've seen.
No, it's not a common thing, especially not amongst the higher tier players. So this is difficult. Oh, that's a huge blow and a miscalculation, massive miscalculation from Kelazhur. Maybe overcommitting with the 5,000 auto turrets there, but honestly, he lost enough in the first 2 tank salvos for that to be more than worthwhile for RuFF.
Yeah, that's a way too many siege tanks to deal with. Now, the one medevac drop does make it inside of the main base, a few Marines, but he's kept a very healthy Hellion count in his army. He can run most of them back to get in. He can use the auto turrets to clean him up.
I mean, this also didn't do anything. There was he He mined out that base already. Oh, big drop on top of the tanks right here. RuFF was not ready with the defense. The Ravens were out of position, but the tanks are able to hold on. A few losses here and there, but Kelazhur takes some serious, significant damage, and now he doesn't have an army. Oh God, RuFF's realized it. He's moving out.
Yep, RuFF is smelling blood in the water. Very smart of him. He brings SCVs to repair that one lone tank, taking a couple of pot shots, but this is what RuFF does. He gets inside of your head. You think, okay, if I just make a big push here, maybe I can break this army down, but keep in mind,
pick off.
Even though the duration of auto turrets, the duration of point defense drones have been drastically nerfed going into this expansion, they still work. Half the Marauder shots didn't do any damage. He still has access to more auto turrets. Soon he'll have more point defense drones, and this leapfrogging army should be able to slowly push its way and possibly, I think definitely, deny the 4th base.
Oh, and here come the auto turrets, and that's going to set up several lines of tier defense right here, and the engagement comes in, but big tank shelling on the front line here of Kelazhur, who's trying to defend his 4th desperately, but he takes a huge salvo once again. The artillery of RuFF raining down on top of Kelazhur's head. He's not looking too good right now, with more Ravens coming in, trying to break the line. Big Marauder flank here, but a huge tank salvo obliterates those low health infantry units. Kelazhur's driven back once again. RuFF with the 20 supply lead and growing right now. The 4th base now compromised, and a huge tank line that is yet to be broken.
Yeah, this is the beauty, man. You have this tank turret versus marine tank, and the turrets have 150 health. They have more health than any bio unit that they're playing around with. They've got a little bit of armor as well. So now we're in a position where he's being backed up into his own base. RuFF's up 30 supply against Kelazhur, a champion-winning player in his region where he comes from, and he is pushing through. He's got a base advantage. There's not enough here to deal with this encroaching army.
No, there isn't, and bear in mind that supply count does not take into account the auto turrets that are coming out of those Ravens. Now we're looking at a 40 supply lead here for RuFF. RuFF's got the siege. He's sitting on the natural expansion right here of Kelazhur. He's looking to break it. The SCV's coming off the line. 10 SCVs decimated. A great concave right here for RuFF as he tries to break Kelazhur's defense. GG, ladies and gentlemen, and RuFF takes an upset win here against Kelazhur. He's very happy with that.
I've seen RuFF stream enough to know that cheeky smile when he picks off a sick upset. A lot of players coming in here. You look at the statistics, you look at the history. Kelazhur has taken down many fearsome foes, but RuFF, well, he's definitely roughed quite a few players up, and I'm sure Kelazhur is on his list.
Well, it looks like Kelazhur is going to have a rough time going forward in this series after losing a map to a great strategy. Not cheesy, you know, it really was a case of, I'm just going to commit to a tech that is not necessarily as often used, something that's a little bit surprising. I know you're going to play a very traditional opening. I think I've got the answer to that. And he was right, he did. It was initially a very strong defensive style, and Kelazhur invested a lot to achieve very little. You know, he drops 3-4 medevacs worth of stuff, gets very little done with it. The tank production starts to kick in much later than Kelazhur's, but it doesn't really matter because RuFF didn't take the damage early for that to make a difference. Notice the tier fence here of RuFF, backing it up with the SCVs for the repairs. You know, all the damage and the stim gets wasted on the auto turrets, and then they have to move in to try and take out the ground units, so they eat a huge face full of tank.
Yeah, he staggered it perfectly. Didn't drop all the turrets at once. Always left a little bit of energy for 1 or 2 more to continue to push forward. And it was just a really, really well done strategy. And a lot of it comes back down to what you said. The very first move that Kelazhur made in this game, you know, serious committed move, was that 3 medevac drop. It did not get anywhere near enough. RuFF was ahead on SCVs. He was close enough after losing 8 of them that he was still in it. And like you said, one of the things that makes him so scary is kind of like a Terran NA version of Haas, where we say he's crazy, he's creative, he's going to do weird, unpredictable things. That doesn't mean he's going to one-base you.
No. It's a dangerous reputation to have when people believe that you're a very creative or crazy or cheesy player because they expect something which you don't have to do. You know, a standard player, they're going to do standard pretty much every game, and it's like, okay, I'm playing up against someone who's got a lot of skill, but they're not all that surprising. The problem with it being a cheesy player is that you have the option to not be. And if you decide to do that, then you could be caught off guard by a player that plays too safe. So what we've got here now is a 1-0 advantage, 1-0, thank you very much, in favor of RuFF from Storm Gaming, who's in the red trucks playing Terran. Ladies and gentlemen, your support for RuFF. You RuFF fans in the audience, no doubt about that, and it's always good to see an early tournament upset, something a little bit surprising, something that people don't expect, but he's up against a very experienced player who I imagine has not had his feathers too ruffled by that experience. Ladies and gentlemen, in the blue trucks playing Terran, Kelazhur. For those asking, yes, I'm out of puns now. I don't think there's any more we can fit in there.
Well, you know, I'm sure there's always a diamond in the rough to be found,
Oh, God.
TB. But I just think this is such a fun series, like you said, to see the upset, because this is a guy that I absolutely hate running into on ladder, because I have the same feeling. I'm like, well, I have no idea what he's going to do. He could do some crazy one base. It looks like with his fast SCV, he wants to do a proxy of some kind, but then at the same time, you don't know if he's going to go for an expansion build. Personally, makes me feel a little bit better losing to him, knowing that he can take big games like this.
SCV, there's something amiss. Something is afoot. That looks like a factory. That is a proxy factory here from RuFF, which shouldn't really surprise me all that much. But when you're a game up in particular, this is the kind of build you want to do, because you're tossing a coin, but the thing is, you know, it's 50-50. You get a heads, you win. You get a tails, you lose, but you get to flip another one afterwards. So it's not too bad. You know, the odds are somewhat in your favor if you attempt something like this. But on a similar token, Kelazhur knows that. He's an experienced enough player to know that, especially if you happen to be RuFF, you might try and gamble a little bit in the second game. So I expect to see, hopefully, a tight defense, some very diligent scouting. We already have one Reaper out for Kelazhur, who's probably going to go and try and find this, and he's already heading in that direction. It looks like I think he smells what the RuFF is cooking.
Yeah,
no, he doesn't. He's
he's
heading in the other direction.
So I was going to say, based on this map, the third base is so hard to protect. He can't possibly do a slow mech strategy like that. Kelazhur could pick him apart, but he's floating this factory over. He's building an armory, and building 2 Reapers at once. So Reaper, Thor, cheese of some kind. The factory float has me a little confused, TB.
It's a little bit weird. I mean, and he's going for this is a Thor. It's got to be a Thor,
It's going to be a Thor Reaper cheese. I haven't seen this one.
No, usually you pull SCVs with this to try and keep the thing alive. It's going to be interesting because what he sees here is, oh, you have a reacted barracks. He lands a scan and he misses the armory. That is a key thing. Not seeing the armory is a big deal, but he does see double refinery, and I have to wonder if that's going to make him think, well, where's the rest of your tech then?
This is so interesting. So we have a Liberator on the way. Now, if he can push the Liberation Zone onto the ramp, it'll be very hard for RuFF to actually get inside of Kelazhur's base, to get a position on a Liberator with the high ground.
Still missed it. He's going to turn around. He's turning back. That's surprising. I mean, if you note on the mini-map there what has not been scouted here for Kelazhur, that area in particular, but he's still got a few other areas on the map. And the thing is, you can't do that forever. That's a great shot there. Excellent shot by Kelazhur. And another follow-up. He takes out one Reaper, so they're going to have to back off for a little bit. But look at that. SCVs, they got seen. All right, he sees SCVs.
The Hellions.
Now he's going to think something is amiss, but you notice the flag. Oh, God. Hellions do not counter Thors, Nathanius.
No, they do not. That Liberator is so important. The most powerful unit against single target that you can use. That Thor has a lot of hit points, though. Good scan, but how many scans does he have to use a Thor to kill a Liberator? That's not a lot of damage the Thor does to it. Pull some SCVs, repair it, and that Liberator is going to obliterate that Thor. I'm not really sure how RuFF's going to break this. Maybe if he were to build a Cyclone.
It's going to be tricky.
I feel like if he could try to sneak a Cyclone and eat one Liberator shot.
Or just more Thors, because there's no follow-up Liberator from this. The thing is that the Thor does not really do all that much single target damage, as he mentioned. There was going to be a Starport follow-up from this, so I wonder if he's just going to elevate the Thor and actually go Thor drop into the main base out of this.
I agree.
There's a second Liberator on the way. You know, I think that he realized, oh, God, well, what if he builds another Thor? And yeah, that's exactly what he's going to do. Right?
I mean, if you're Kelazhur, I love that he's building a command center behind this, because he says, okay, well, RuFF is pretty all in with a strategy like this.
He is, yeah, totally.
Especially since his tech is on the map. So all I really need to do is just not die.
He's going to use the factory to see up the ramp, and then he may be able to use the Thor to crack that defense, even from that low down. Great play there by Thor. Here comes the shelling. He's outside the Liberation Zone, because now he has the vision on that Liberator.
This is actually really nice. Once he gets through this, the most important thing is going to be trying to target down that siege tank. The SCVs are repairing.
I mean, this is costing Kelazhur money, no doubt about that, and it's keeping him grounded. That also means that is SCV. That's a bunch of SCVs that are not mining. However, he does have a siege tank up now. He's starting to hit the Thor with some shots.
Really, really good repair from Kelazhur. He knows that while both players are running out of money, he even slips a Reaper back across the map and sends the Liberator. There's nothing at home to defend.
Oh, that's a really, really nice counter-attack. You know, a lesser player would get obsessed with this defense, but what's so important is that if you've got a knife, put it in RuFF's back right now. If you've got the opportunity to backstab him, do it, and that's what's happening, and RuFF is committed. As you said, he is all in on this attack.
Yeah, and this is really smart. So Viking is built defensively. A very smart play to hold this back. But that Liberator, the Reaper still being a bit annoying. Actually, good surround on that. So I don't see how RuFF breaks him, though, because he's just going to keep building tanks. The tanks will push the Thor away from the Liberator, and the Liberator says, you are not coming up this ramp.
You know what's weird about this, though? Because there's so many SCVs pulled off, and the fact that this is delaying the expansion, they're roughly economically equal at the moment, which you wouldn't expect with an all-in build like that. That means there's a possibility of a transition out of it, as opposed to just being stuck here.
Yeah, it's such an odd scenario. Half because, obviously, it's very weird, but people don't do this. I mean, I don't have any previous games to reference for what this plays out as. Landing the factory to build more units, he loses his high ground vision. So now the Viking has to come back.
He's got a Viking now, so yeah, and that means the mobility is gone now from that. Oh, almost loses the medevac. That would have been absolutely brutal. Now getting some shots off. A couple of SCVs go down in the process. That Viking is going to be key now because you can't deploy any more Liberators like that. You're not going to be able to use those medevacs so freely anymore.
Yeah, I like this a lot. Put the Liberator a bit closer to the bunker. Try to use that to protect it, but not in
phase. It's not enough. Liberator's down.
So the Liberator's down. 3 tanks, though. Are you really going to try to bust that with 2 Thors up the ramp? One of them already very low on health.
You could do it if you've got a medevac, I think. You could do it if you have a medevac. He just pulls that back. I don't think he's built one. Yeah, he does. He has one.
Drop
he
the
can
Thor
elevate it,
onto
drop it
the
on the
tanks.
top. Thor drop. Boosting in from the left flank right now. He actually goes down to the bottom on the cliff. Looks like he's going to get picked.
He's got one.
All right, he's out. He's out. Okay, now he's going to charge his boost. He's going to do it again.
He has a tank, too, so he can use this to help push the preparing SCVs in such a way.
Yeah, I'm concerned about that Banshee on the left there. Kelazhur may be able to do something with it because Cloak is on the way.
He's boosting the Thor over to try to snipe the
Banshee. Can he get it? Yeah, he's chasing it, but that's forced him to engage the Cloak. So
yeah, so the Viking he's building at home now should be able to help deal with it better.
Yeah, it's going to drain some energy, so that's good. I mean, there's concern with a lack of scan energy here, but he saw it coming out of the base. That's the key thing. So now he can save energy for a scan. He's going to try and pick off a tank. Lovely pickup there by Kelazhur. Hot pickup, grabs the tank, pulls it back. SCV still keeping these units alive, but we're seeing units go down now because of the tank support. This is a beautifully constructed defense by RuFF, but as you said, will it burn out?
Yeah, and the Banshee has made its way over to this base, grabs an SCV, building a command center, gets a second one.
He doesn't have scan energy.
No, he's waiting. That missile turret is so close to finishing up. He does just now get a scan. He has to burn it.
You don't want to use it. Yeah, he doesn't get it. Missile turret is up, but that's brutal. That's going to do some damage. He's not microing it right now, though. He's actually attacking the refinery as opposed to anything else because he's dealing with this crazy stuff because RuFF is going in, and another tank is almost about to fall here.
Yeah, he pokes. Oh, great medevac micro from Kelazhur. 2 tanks,
so
very low. And with 4 siege tanks, like, at some point or another, this game's just going to come down to like neither player having any money. But
Lovely
the biggest
control right there. He's trying to focus down the SCVs to make sure there's no repair potential anymore on that Thor, and he's got the Cloak to do it. That's a problem. That's going to stop that offense. He can't keep backing off and repairing anymore.
Yeah, he needs an offensive missile turret at this
point.
He does,
yeah,
to keep moving. And
chasing it.
The only thing that RuFF has going for him is he can float out as natural.
I think RuFF was he targeting his own factory to get the splash on that thing because the Banshee took damage there.
Yeah.
That was a lovely move. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. And a Thor gets picked off. That could have been picked up. A little bit of a mistake there by RuFF. I think he was focused on defending at home. But, I mean, look at how mined out RuFF is. But Kelazhur is in a similar position because he's been bottled up in his base for a while now. The economic situation right now, you see a huge supply lead here for Kelazhur. It's mostly in units. If Kelazhur can't use those units to do anything, then RuFF could catch up. But it looks like he's definitely behind right now.
Yeah, the strangest thing, though, is that RuFF floats his natural out. All these Hellions from Kelazhur denying this economy is such a big deal because there's, like, no more money left in the main base for either player. They need to expand. They can't build any more units.
That is a mess. The tank doing pretty well. He's fighting 4 tanks against 1. Great Thor micro here with RuFF. A hot pickup, but the tank goes down in the process. Oh, this is going to be enough for RuFF. It was a brave effort. It was an excellent build, but Kelazhur was just a little bit too savvy to it. And I have a feeling now that RuFF is on the road to a 1-1 tie.
Yeah, definitely a creative strategy, to say the least. It had quite a bit of potential, a little bit more than I expected personally, but the counterattacks, the damage that Kelazhur was able to do by, as you said, backstabbing him was more than enough. And I mean, he's at 33 supply versus 71. I don't know what he's thinking here.
The stats tell the tale. You know, I think he's just trying to hold on so he can think about the next game. You know, that was a little bit of a rough experience for him, but eventually he will be able to recover. He's just going to take a couple more minutes, I think, to think about, you know, what am I going to do in Game 3? Because this is key for me. You know, it's a big deal for him to be in the winner's bracket of a tournament of this caliber.
Yeah, and he's got to be still feeling the heat from that first victory as well. You know, he wants to try to find a way to edge this one back. He certainly had his crazy comebacks in his time, but this Banshee comes up, almost delays second factory, picks off 4 more SCVs, 15 versus 35, and now a very powerful Marine tank push is coming. There's not really anything here to defend.
Yeah, Kelazhur just, held it really, really well. You know, he kept his cool, which, a lesser player would certainly have not been able to do, and just...
Very smart to keep the energy, too, so he can scan.
Yes, yeah, just in case, because, there's always that comeback potential there from RuFF's Cloak Banshee, and he's doing a little bit, but he's not doing the economic damage he needs to do to catch up. What's key here for RuFF for any chance of getting back into this, which is slim at this point, is to try and do damage and hold Kelazhur back. Make sure that Kelazhur can't use his massive unit advantage, and then that was a slip up there, and RuFF loses his Banshee to a well-timed scan, and now the counter-attack from Kelazhur, and this is the problem, if you can't keep Kelazhur out of your base, then you're in serious trouble.
Yeah, you just said it, like at this point, it all comes down to that Banshee did a good job of pulling the army back, but you can't stop it forever. There's just a Thor and 2 Vikings, that's not gonna stop all of this.
Oh my. It's a hell march across the map right now. A huge amount of tanks coming in from Kelazhur, and the defense is almost non-existent here. He's in something of a rough spot as we go forward here, and Kelazhur is going to break this defense without too much of a problem here. He just has too much stuff for RuFF, and there's the GG.
Very well played by Kelazhur, holding off against the madness of RuFF in game 2. Still tied series up, still go either way.
King RuFF. It was good. You got to admit, that was a hell of a build. It was unexpected. Kelazhur did not scout it, but if anything, does that not really speak more to Kelazhur's ability to stay cool under pressure? If he'd seen it, that would have been even less effective than what it was.
Yeah, it's just so scary because when you're playing against someone like that, you really genuinely have no idea what they'll do, because he could still do something like a standard cheese, like 5X Reaper, any other variety, fast Reaper, Hellion, Banshee. There's just so many builds in TvT, especially early on in Legacy of the Void, that you have to worry about. And then you add all of RuFF's builds in, and you say, well, Kelazhur to be able to hold on against something that crazy, Reaper, Thor, the fast Liberator was really smart. I feel like it gives you a little bit of everything that you need to help defend. It's not as good as a Viking against a Banshee, but it'll help deal with most anything else, especially slow like those Thors.
Well, you also note the flexibility of it, that he was able to then take it to RuFF's base and play ball at that point, and that kind of forced the Viking response out. I think the Viking was the right choice anyway, because he needed that vision up the ramp, and he wanted to use the factory to build as opposed to scout, and factories don't have guns on them, unfortunately, something that the Terran might want to consider in the next expansion. But one way or the other, it was a great attack. It was a really cool attack. It was something we don't get to see. I mean, you see, that was the first appearance of RuFF's proxy Thor there, and Kelazhur just running for the hills for his life up the ramp. But without that high visibility, the range of the Thors for like a good couple of minutes was very limited, and he wasn't able to really pick off the units he wanted to do. And by the time he was able to drop up there, you see a backline of tanks there, you've got SCVs and repair, you've got a bunker in place, you've got air. That's a lot of stuff for RuFF.
Yeah, I think the cool part that you mentioned there is, like, if he had just gone for the drops a bit faster, the defense didn't really seem to be there because it wasn't a Viking. The Liberator does take a little bit of extra time to pick off something like a Medevac. I feel if you begin bypass that, what was it? It was just 2 Reapers, a couple of Hellions. Yeah. Thor chew through that easy, especially since there was a second Thor so fast.
If he had not got that Liberator, he would have been toast. I don't think there's any real doubt about that. But here we go into a game 3 here on Ruins of Endion. And it is currently 1 apiece in this best of 3 series. Ladies and gentlemen, with a good initial win, but unfortunately, this was when cheese failed here for our player in the red trunks playing Terran. It's Psystorm RuFF. Versus his opponent, who's looking rock solid, kind of as we'd expect. I don't think we didn't see the true Kelazhur in game 1. I think we did in game 2. That's the experience shining through, ladies and gentlemen. In the blue trunks playing Terran, RuFF Kelazhur. Or Kel'Thuzad, as he's more colloquially known.
It's always funny when you look at these tournaments, especially since we haven't been able to have this conversation, right? We haven't had NA tournaments where we kind of get these bracket players that come in and play. Someone like RuFF, we don't see him flying out all the way to Europe for those events. We really don't see Kelazhur going out to those either. And then we get to the qualifier events, and RuFF not quite the caliber player that's able to make it into the top 16 qualifier for an event like Tours, for example. But we get to see them face off here, and you really get to see where just them playing so much kind of gives both of them good enough an idea of what each other do that we can have a 1-1 here, and Kelazhur's not able to get what I think a lot of people, you look at this matchup, you're like, yeah, okay, well, Kelazhur should just win this 2-0.
He's the on-paper favorite,
Yeah.
right? But ultimately, we're talking about two people who do run into each other on ladder. You know, they're both American GMs. They're going to be fighting each other. They're both streamers. They have both run into each other on multiple occasions. And obviously, RuFF was able to pull out something unexpected in Game 1, but his cheese in Game 2 was not good enough to break Kelazhur. I think with a little refinement it could have been, but I mean, you've got to give credit to Kelazhur's defense there and just staying cool under pressure in a situation that would rattle a lot of lesser players. And now we're seeing a much more standard game out of both of them. RuFF with a early CC, you know, something that RuFF is probably not familiar with all that much, considering he likes to get the tech out first. You know, you call it cheese, I call it technologically advanced there from the Terran player, but we're going to see a more economically focused build, and Kelazhur this time is going to go for the aggression. He's getting the early starport.
Yeah, I feel like I've actually seen him play a very greedy style, specifically on this map. I mean, Ruins of Endion, you can break those rocks outside of your natural expansion and cut off all ground access to your army. So you're not attacking the other player until you either have medevacs or a big enough army that can break the rocks before your opponent can, you know, easily react. And obviously you see him floating this tower over here. Oh, that's cool. So this sensor tower, as Zelnaga tower, you have to drop a unit from. I think he's just going to build a Marine here since he doesn't want to use his barracks anyway, just to get that tower. But there we go. Look at the follow-up, TB. We've seen this.
All right, okay. I didn't think he could stick to it for too long. You know, he's got to do something a little bit crazy. The question is, what is he going to do with it? Like, I mean, I kind of smell Banshee in this position, but with the early Viking, who knows at this point? You can never really truly know. This could just be, you know, a Viking Hellion with a medevac build. That's entirely possible. In the meantime, though, we do have those Reapers, and that little trick here from RuFF is not going to pay off.
Nah, the Reapers on the high ground pick it off quite easily. Barracks is going to lift up. That, of course, is another thing. You say, whoa, your barracks is in the middle of the map. I have a pretty okay idea of the direction that you're headed in. It still could be some sort of weird multiple factory build, maybe fast blue flame, but based on your resume, you seem to like Ravens quite a bit.
You do, certainly, and he may very well go for that. He's adding 2 tech labs in, so we might see the Raven play again. I mean, this might be a case of, look, if it worked once, it could work again. But yeah, that's exactly what it's going to be. We're going to have the Ravens going in. I mean, it was a powerful build. It was a strong build. It was a very flexible build as well. Again, a Swiss Army knife for Terran is the Raven with its multiple spells. In the meantime, though, we're going to see that earlier Banshee. The thing is, with the Raven on its way out, that Cloak Banshee should not do that well here, especially since there's already a Viking on the field.
Yeah, the Viking actually already got a couple shots off. So that Banshee, he already knows about it. Now Corvette Reactor's coming out. Like you said, the Raven gives detection. Cloak, wasted investment almost at this point. It'll get a couple of kills. Raven should pop out, and then this kind of comes to a slowdown. But this kind of makes me feel, you know, it makes me think back to that early harass that Kelazhur had in game number 1, where he gets a couple of SCVs, but the focus isn't as much on the mineral.
Couple at this point, though. I mean, the Raven is there now, but I mean that's 8 SCVs taken down. That probably pays for itself. I have to wonder if it pays for itself plus the Cloak, though, at that point, because now the Cloak's not really going to do anything that the Raven's on the field. So what do you reckon? You know, who's ahead at that point?
It's still tricky for me because the mineral income isn't the biggest deal with this, like I said in game 1 when he lost workers. But he's also had his second expansion done a bit earlier, so he had access to the 2 mules, 2 SCV production at a time, earlier than Kelazhur did. So he can kind of catch up a bit as we see he's, you know, you lost 7 to 8 SCVs, you're only down maybe 5 or 6 because you're building 2 at a time, a bit faster than the other guy. And we still, of course, had the potential for the Ravens, especially on this map, to cross this large airspace where you're not going to worry about Marines catching you. You're not going to worry about there being missile turrets and doing some auto turret harass that way. So I feel like he's got options. I don't mind it too much, but Kelazhur, I think after picking up that Game 2 victory, he should still be feeling really good.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But I'm still concerned, even if I'm Kelazhur, I'm like, oh God, it's more Ravens. Like, you know, what is my answer to that specifically? Because in game 1, it took a while to build those Ravens up, but regardless, I still lost the game. So that's something to consider here, and he's got to be thinking, well, I need to switch up my ideas then, because what I did the first time certainly didn't work. I mean, it didn't just not work, it got crushed repeatedly. And that's not what you're used to in, you know, what is on paper something of a mismatch in terms of player experience.
Yeah, and now we have RuFF getting a little bit out on the map, making sure to clear the towers. And we see like this, that the cool thing is, even though Hellions, you know, in a straight-up fight, they're not really that great. When you're dealing with stuff like drops or anything like that, you can really get that line damaging because you can get the Hellions very close without being shot. You know, the Marines can't shoot until they're all out of the medevac, so it makes it easier to clean up. The Raven attack upgrade is also on the way now. So he's just really powering this force up, and I expect to see him probably maybe take that slower third again. This is another easy map to hold it, and then move into tanks and probably try to do the same follow-up game-ending push that he did in game number 1.
And that's a nice little force on the ground, no doubt about that. The question, I suppose, is he's going to be able to break that tank line. There's a few Marauders in the mix, which I always like to see. Just, it's a lot more HP, it's a lot more resistant. But here we go, he's going in and immediately backing off, and I don't blame him whatsoever. There were tanks prepped, but now he's got the backup of the Ravens. So if Kelazhur overextends here, he's going to find himself surrounded by turrets.
Yeah. The most important thing is RuFF has to be very patient with how he uses these turrets, because if you're Kelazhur, in your mind, you also recognize that if you can force him to drop all of his auto turrets, pull back in time, wait the 5 seconds, then you can push again, and his maximum potential of auto turrets is a lot lower. So you kind of want to play this game of push and shove where he doesn't have that many shoves to use him. He's going to go straight in.
He's going for it. And the thing is, he deployed his siege tanks in the middle of that, so he's committed to this fight one way or the other. Auto turrets deployed. The Hellions tanking damage at the front. The auto turrets trying to shred their way through. The tanks are down, but there's a lot more Marauders in the composition this time. So it was able to crack through there. But look at the addition here from RuFF. He switched into Banshees. And Marauders do not shoot up.
Yeah, he's just trying to buy some time, pulling a few of those workers back. The Banshees, with the low Marine count, should be able to clean up a good bit of this, but how much damage is he going to take in the meantime? He's at 28 SCVs. He hasn't been building that many, to be perfectly honest.
The difference is actually significant, but the army size, not too much. Now the auto turrets go down, the Banshees are in the mix, the army gets crushed, but RuFF's supply is still way behind. He has a slightly larger army right now. The question is, can he make a game-ending push out of this? Because if he doesn't, I have a feeling Kelazhur is just going to roll him over.
Yeah, I don't think he can make a game-ending push. He doesn't have any siege tanks. This was at such an earlier phase than on game 1 on Dust Towers. And like I said, he hasn't been building SCVs. He's at 25 workers. Before that attack came, he still barely had any saturation, because I guess he was thinking along the same vein as us, where, well, I only really need saturated gas. Ravens are dirt cheap on the mineral side of things, so I can afford not to build workers. He tried to turn that into an advantage, but now I think Kelazhur, if we compare positions, after the first big fight, Kelazhur's behind 20-30 supply. This time, he's ahead the same amount.
Yeah, the cloaking field may certainly prove to be an interesting factor here, because it's tech that his opponent doesn't necessarily know is present, and the scan count's probably going to be quite low because Kelazhur's been trying to maximize his economic advantage, but you see there on the command center there's definitely some scan energy available. So, I mean, are we in an all-nothing position? I don't think so yet, because there is another command center that's just gone down up to the right there. So he is trying to bring this back, and if Kelazhur plays too defensively, then there is a possibility that RuFF could catch up, but I don't think Kelazhur's going to do that. He's already trying to find a position here. There is a missile turret in place, but it is only a single one and no other defense.
Yeah, spreading himself out like this is going to be so difficult with this army that he has. We're especially relying on all the Ravens using their turrets together, so everything is going to come down towards the bottom to try to deal with this drop, and at the same time, Kelazhur says hello to the third base.
He knows the addition of building armor here, which is a very unusual upgrade, but you might not know that building armor does affect auto turrets. So he's thinking, okay, well, my opponent's armor's got a lot more punch this time. I can resist that with the building armor upgrade, but I mean, it's interesting. It's certainly creative. Is it going to be enough? I don't think so. I mean, we're seeing still a 20 supply difference in workers, which is pretty significant. But now we have another good engagement. The Banshee backup. That number of Banshees is starting to get a little bit out of control here.
Yeah, it's quite a powerful force, because you think about it, like the Marauders, they're actually quite good against the auto turrets, for sure. But then, now the Banshees come in, you're like, well, I want to build more Marines. The Hellions can deal with the Marines, so can those. So this big counter push is coming. SCVs as well to repair. But the Marauders seem to be holding off the turrets. The Banshees are a key threat, but the production is switching a little bit more heavily into Marines. These Banshees, as you mentioned...
The anti-air's gone. That's it. That's all the anti-air that he's got going for him right now, and now his army's going to take a huge punishment. And you saw, okay, things died there, but it was just Hellions and auto
No
turrets.
missile turrets!
Oh god, the missile turret just got cancelled. The Banshees are going to work right now on the natural expansion. Kelazhur taking more damage. There's more auto turret energy available. Another scan goes down. Does he have the anti-air to bring it down? One Banshee falls. Another Banshee is working hard to try and do damage here.
Still one Banshee stands. The auto turrets pick off the Marines. There's no anti-air still. Another one finishes, but no scan. Drops another scan. All the Marines are dead.
There
and this Banshee, this push, getting a lot of work done for RuFF. He's still very down on supply. He hasn't been building workers really behind
No,
this.
I think he's been committing so much to his unit production that workers have just not really been a factor. And now there's static defense up. So there's not going to be a lot of more economic damage done here, and his idea of, what if I break the economy of my opponent, my poor economy is not going to matter anymore, that no longer works. And we now have an equal army supply. Those Ravens do not have incredible energy reserves at this point. If they had 200 energy each, I'd be thinking, okay, maybe you can make a fight of it, but I'm a bit worried now. He's got 3 more Ravens on the way, but how many times is the trick going to work?
It really comes down now to just needing to be able to buy some time. I mean, if he had enough to break the rocks down, that would give him maybe a few seconds here. Like I said, this is an army that's fully fledged. Look at the production. Even with all those tech labs, it's mostly on Marines. He says, I'm not going to lose this game because my bio army can't beat Banshees.
No. And I think the RuFFs realize what's going on here. He saw the number of Marines, like, okay, Banshees ain't going to work anymore.
Yeah, back to Ravens.
Yeah, back to Ravens, which is, and that's funny, because now he has building armor. This is weird,
yeah,
isn't
and those turrets
When was the last time he said
tough.
that? Now he has building armor.
The building armor timing has been hit.
I mean, and it works, because right now, those are fairly unupgraded Marines. We're talking about +1 only, plus building armor auto turrets. Actually, those Marines are barely going to do anything to them. The problem is there's still a lot of Marauders in that force, so I don't think there's enough auto turrets to really break this. There's a lot of auto turrets, but that's way too much stim bio, I think. But look at how thinned out that bio army suddenly is.
Turrets are good units.
They're good. They're very good, no doubt. But the problem is it's still an army advantage for Kelazhur and an economic advantage at this point. Can RuFF play a game of cat and mouse long enough to catch up? I don't think so now.
This is still really tricky because that unit counts are very low again, so a couple of more auto turrets are going to pop out.
They're much more effective now. There's no massive bio.
Yeah, the biggest thing is that core bio has that super fast burst damage as well against those smaller units, but when you get to lower numbers, the auto turrets become a lot more powerful.
3 Ravens just got produced here. I mean, we're looking at probably a sack third here, but the Raven count is extremely high. It's kind of ridiculous, honestly, but the Vikings are starting to pick Ravens off, and with no PDD going down, those Ravens are extremely expensive and very difficult to replace, and bio is not. That's the reality of it.
And the auto turrets did get quite a bit of damage done against these forces, but I think RuFF's realized, he's added a couple more factories, he's going for Blue Flame. Is it going to be enough? I think having the 3rd base knocked off is too much, right?
Yeah, because, I mean, what minerals are you mining right now? You're out in your main. As you can see on the minimap, he's almost out in his natural. He can't take a 3rd. If you take a Blue Flame 5 minutes earlier, during this attack, RuFF had Blue Flame Hellions, this could have gone a whole different way. That bio could have been devastated way faster, but I don't think it's going to be the case at this point. The auto turrets are now going down. He might be able to hold off another attack, but economically, it's 4 base versus 2 right now, and 2 of those bases are barely mining anyway.
He's got nothing else to work with. These Ravens just waiting for the energy, but the natural is being cleared out. He's going to pull some SCVs. He's going to pull the rest of his Ravens down, but a paltry amount of auto turrets. There's just nothing left here to actually deal with this army of Marines constantly rallying. And then as they push, the turrets time out, and the bio can continue to rally across the map, and now up 60, 70 supply. Kelazhur, he knows he's won this game.
In the words of legendary George W. Bush, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, well, you ain't gonna fool me again. And Kelazhur puts the nail in the coffin. That is 32 supply. There's the GG. 2 games to 1 here for Kelazhur, who trips up a little bit early on, but he gets wise to RuFF's tricks at the end.
Yeah, certainly a fun series to watch, I would say.
Yeah, that was very entertaining. That was unusual.
2 players well known in the North American StarCraft scene for very different reasons.
Yes.
Putting up a good show. That was
a good fight. That was a good, fun stage match between the 2 of them. I really enjoyed RuFF's creativity there. It's a shame that the build didn't work out in Game 2. I think that was a really entertaining build. It could have worked very well, but Kelazhur held his cool under pressure. You've got to give him credit for that.
Yeah, if you really think about it, like the build that he did in the final game, if you go for some sort of Banshee play like that, your opponent throw rushes you, you're dead. It's over. GG.
Yeah.
You want to open up with multiple Reapers? Well, grenades don't knock back massive units, so Thor walks up, boom, boom, you're dead, GG. The build with the Liberator, very smart. The adjustments made by Kelazhur, especially in the way that he tried to take those fights in Game 3 especially, was just so much better. I loved every little tweak that he made, but I also loved seeing RuFF, do what RuFF does.
Yeah, that was very fun to watch there from RuFF, and that was a really awesome performance there by him. Shame he wasn't able to take it all the way, but he put on some great shows and showed us some really interesting, innovative builds, so I enjoyed that a great deal. That was a fun TvT.
Yeah, this is such just an awkward thing, and this actually used to happen sometimes in high-level mech versus bio games where you would just try to mix in these Banshees, you try to do something weird, and then the Terran player that's making Marauders realizes this is actually not working anymore.
No.
But As far as all the back and forth goes, Kelazhur, and a super esteemed, accomplished player, is also one of the players I'm sure many people online are saying could go further in this tournament than some of the other maybe more hyped up players because he has been so consistent, especially in the Copa America League.
Yeah, that is very, very true. We're going to toss it on over to Choba on the main stage, who's going to be interviewing our winner for this best-of-3 series at Kelazhur. Take it away.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Of course, kicking off with the congratulations, moving on to the round of 32 here for the first DreamHack in North America here in Austin. Let's talk briefly about that match. Of course, still early stage in the tournament, but a little bit of a fun one for the audience, like those people who know RuFF. That was kind of what you'd expect, but how was it playing against that here on the stage?
I haven't played on a stage in a while. I didn't get to play on stage in Katowice with no crowd. So I'm kind of a little bit nervous, but I guess it worked out.
Yeah, you pulled it off, but that first game seemed to falter you a little bit. You seemed a little flustered, but in game 2 and 3, even though he kept on going, with the same style of pressure that RuFF puts on, you held your ground. Are you feeling better now that you have the win? Do you think you're going to be like, all right, I'm kind of back in the groove?
Yeah, the first game actually, I underestimated RuFF a lot, and it was kind of wrong of me to I saw his composition and I didn't respect it. I just thought, this is a troll composition, but I hadn't thought that that's kind of disrespectful to RuFF because he probably practiced it a lot. Yeah. So if he's doing it, it's for a reason. And then I ended up losing the first game, which I think I deserved it. But the next games I just played like I actually was playing.
Okay. All right, man. Well, yeah, like you said, you pulled it off. Congratulations. You're moving on to the round of 32. We'll see you more later on in the tournament. For all of you guys at home, we'll return after a short break with the next stage here in the group stage number 2 at DreamHack Austin.